The movie begins with a young boy named Oskar, looking at his own reflection in the window. He gets distracted when he spots a car reaching his building. There's a little girl and an old man, both of whom step out of the car. Oskar doesn't seem to know them, so he resumes with his own reflection and suddenly pulls out a knife. Realizing that his mom might walk in on him, Oskar proceeds to hide the knife under his bed. It seems as if the man and the little girl are living next door to Oskar. The man, who goes by the name Håkan, covers up his windows to block sunlight from entering the house. The next day, Oskar is seen in class during an awareness lesson. The teacher asks the class about safety measures, and Oskar immediately answers the question with ease. However, we quickly realize that Oskar isn't respected in class, as a bunch of bullies make fun of him. Their leader, Connie, likes to harass Oskar, and he keeps calling him a pig. This affects him and leads him to develop violent tendencies while at home alone. Later, we see Håkan is up to no good as he packs his bag and prepares for a trip. After the sunset, Håkan catches an unsuspecting man and greets him in a friendly manner. However, he quickly knocks out the unsuspecting man with ease by sedating him. Håkan proceeds to hang his victim upside down in the middle of the snowy forest. He brings out a container from his bag and drains the blood of his victim. In the course of the crime, he is found by a dog who wanders off from his owners and barks at him. Håkan tries to shoo it away, but the dog continues to bark, and the sound alerts its owner. Håkan doesn't have a choice, so he runs away. The dog's owner finds it but also notices the poor victim's body. In another scene, we see Oskar practicing his own bully instincts by using his knife on a tree while talking to himself. He is suddenly caught in the act by the little girl we saw with Håkan at the start of the movie. Her name is revealed to be Eli, and she tells Oskar that she lives next door to him. After a little conversation, Eli says that she can't be his friend and walks away after this, leaving Oskar alone with his thoughts and his knife. We then see Håkan getting scolded by Eli, who is upset with the way he handled his latest victim. She goes on to say that she will have to get the job done herself, which most definitely confirms her to be a vampire. The next day at school, Oskar has to deal with more bullying during his classes, and then we see him at home. Oskar's mom is growing worried about the supposed serial killer in town and talks to her friends about it over the phone. Oskar doesn't seem too bothered by her panic, but rather brings out some newspapers so that he can study the killer's murders. In a cafe, some friends are having a conversation. The main topic of the conversation is the efficiency of the government, but then the group spots Håkan and seems to recognize him. They want to include him in their group, so one of them, named Yaki, approaches to him and tries to start a conversation. However, Håkan wants nothing to do with that and quickly walks away after giving a random excuse. Oskar is home alone once again. He plays with a Rubik's Cube outside in the snow and is then greeted by Eli. She acts like she's fascinated by the cube, but is actually interested in Oskar and his hormones. Anyway, she asks Oskar how to use the cube. Oskar quickly teaches Eli the ways of the cube, and then he hands it over to her. Eli starts working on it but seems to be smelly, so Oskar asks her if she's showered. Eli casually brushes his question aside and says she's fine. Oskar doesn't bother much and walks away. At night, we see Yaki bidding farewell to his friend, and then heads home but comes across a little girl begging for help inside a tunnel. He offers his support to her, but is attacked by the girl who bites his neck and sucks his blood, killing him. The vampire girl is none other than Eli herself. A recluse witnesses the attack from his flat, but doesn't report the incident to authority. Jaki's friend group learns about their friend, so they rush to the scene. However, the body is nowhere to be found. Håkan is then seen with the body. He hides it in a hole in a lake. The next day, Oskar is seen hanging around and playing with his Rubik's Cube. He eagerly waits for the day to pass so that he can go meet Eli at their spot once more. When the time comes, they finally make a formal introduction to each other and talk about their respective ages. Eli solves the Rubik's Cube with ease, and Oskar offers it as a gift to her. The next day in school, after classes are over, but Oskar stays back for some notes. He leaves school when it's dark, but is caught by Connie and his gang. They want to know what Oskar was writing, but he doesn't give them a satisfactory response. Now Oskar gets injured in a terrible sequence, but then his mom arrives, so the bullies run their way. Oskar lies about what happened to him and says he fell down. When he meets Eli, he tells her the truth about what happened between him and the bullies. She is upset to hear this, so she tells Oskar to hit back, even if the bullies outnumber him. Håkan watches on with jealousy as Oskar and Eli become best friends. The both of them even start communicating with each other in Morse code through the common wall they share. Afterward, Oskar decided to join weightlifting classes to increase his strength and muscles. He then offers Eli a treat, and she refuses it at first but eventually consumes it. Eli becomes sick from the treatment because her vampire genes will only accept human blood. Oskar hugs Eli, revealing that he likes her a lot. This makes Eli fall for him, but she acts normal for now. After that, Oskar goes to meet his dad, whose hormone deal with his mom had gone sour. As they enjoy their time together, we see Hakan warning Eli about other people being able to identify his face. He asks her not to see Oskar that night, and she silently agrees. Hakan goes to Oskar's school and hunts for blood. He kidnaps one of the school kids and is about to make him his latest victim, but his friends come looking for him. Hakan takes an acid bowl and hides while the boys save their friend. Fearing the worst, Hakan pours the acid on himself so that the cops don't recognize him. Eli is seen all by herself, and then she watches the news talking about Hakan's arrest. Luckily, his identity hasn't been confirmed due to the acid attack. Eli goes to the hospital and finds out where Hakan is being kept, so she walks out and flies to the top of the building. She greets Hakan, who's got an ugly face now, and he decides to end his life by allowing Eli to suck his blood. With the life drained out of him, Hakan falls off the building. Meanwhile, Lake wakes up in the middle of the night and tells his girlfriend Virginia that he wants to find the culprit who killed his friend. Eli goes to Oskar's window and asks for his permission to enter the room because she's a vampire. Oskar lets her inside and she undresses to flex her body, after which she lies next to him. Oskar asks Eli to be his girlfriend, but she tells him she's not a girl. Despite the awkward conversation, Eli agrees to go slow with Oskar because she has no one else left in this world. Oskar wakes up the next day but can't find any trace of Eli, apart from a note. It's time for a skating adventure in school, but Connie is already planning something sinister. He and his friends go to Oskar, but he is holding a stick for self-defense. Connie wants to take Oskar for a swim, but he refuses and smacks him with the stick. Connie cries out loud and is attended to by his teachers. His mom scolds him for his actions and tells his dad to have a word with him. The next day, Eli watches Oskar taking a swim after his workout. She then takes him to her home, and he starts talking about how he stood up to Connie. Eli congratulates him and plays some music to enjoy their time together. However, Oskar cuts his hand and offers to make a blood pact with Eli. She gets tempted by his blood and quickly drinks the puddle forming on the floor. She tells Oskar to go away, after which she also escapes and hides on top of a tree. Now we see Lake talking to Gosta and his friends about their deceased friend, but Virginia doesn't seem too concerned. Lake scolds her for her behavior, but it only leads Virginia to walk away. Lake chases after her, but then Eli, who is hiding on top of the tree, jumps and attacks Virginia. Lake kicks Eli away and tends to Virginia, so Eli makes a quick escape. Virginia is made to rest at home, but the sunlight enters her room and burns her skin. This means that Virginia has also become a vampire, thanks to Eli's bite. On the other side, we see Oskar chilling with his dad, but they are interrupted by a bearded man. His dad changes his mood and starts to drink and smoke with the bearded man, which makes Oskar upset. He looks back at the message Eli left him, and we learn that it was a farewell note. Virginia goes to meet Lake and Josta, whose army of cats doesn't seem to like her vampire hormones. They attack Virginia without mercy, and Lake is confused by what he sees. Virginia is taken to the hospital, and then Oskar goes to meet Eli. She finally confesses that she is a vampire and needs human blood to survive. It turns out that Eli has been at the same age for a very long time, and she proves it by showing a silver egg. She claims that it is valuable enough to buy a nuclear power plant and shows the golden ball inside the egg. Eli offers some cash to Oskar, but he refuses it because he thinks it's money she stole from the victim she has killed. Eli says that she earned this money, but Oskar leaves regardless. Meanwhile, Virginia tells Lake that Eli has infected her, and she doesn't want to live anymore. She seems to have lost all hope, so she asks her doctor to open the blinds, and this leads to Virginia lighting up and burning to death, while Lake and the doctor helplessly watch her. At school, Oskar spots Connie getting bullied by his older brother, so he figures everything is a vicious circle. Eli shows up at Oskar's house and asks him to invite her inside. He wants to know what will happen if she enters anyway, so she walks in. Suddenly, Eli starts to bleed aggressively, so Oskar immediately invites her inside and hugs her. Now, Eli tells Oskar that they are similar because she needs to kill, and he wants to kill. Eli takes a shower and changes into another clothes, which Oskar appreciates. However, Oskar's mom shows up, so Oskar has to send Eli back to her place. Eli and Oskar continue to hang out, but Lake wants revenge for what Eli did to Virginia. The next day, Oskar goes to Eli's home and finds a note saying she's in the bathroom. At that moment, Locke breaks into the house and looks around for Eli, so Oskar hides from him. Locke enters the bathroom and finds Eli sleeping under a lot of blankets that prevent light from reaching her. He then goes to open the blinds, but Oskar stops him from doing so. Eli wakes up and attacks Locke, ending his life after a brief struggle. With another dead body on her hands and the neighbor upstairs complaining about the disturbance, Eli has to leave, so she gives Oskar a kiss and vanishes into thin air. Oskar comes back home to his screaming mom, but he ignores her bullshit and locks himself inside his room. Elsewhere, Connie and his gang plan something sinister to punish Oskar. During a swimming class, the instructor is told about a fire, so he goes to take care of it. However, the bully group made the fire on purpose so that they could be alone with Oskar. Connie's brother forces Oskar to stay underwater for 3 minutes, otherwise he'll poke out one of his eyes. Things are looking bad for Oskar, but then we see body parts flying around everywhere. It turns out that Oskar is rescued by Eli, who looks at him with bloody eyes in the middle of her massacre. The movie ends with Oskar on a train, and he taps Morse code on a giant box, which means Eli is hidden inside it, and they have set out to live a new life together.